This is an International HX520 tractor with an XL 120 HDG lowboy trailer and a Caterpillar 320DL excavator. This was made by Diecast Masters and it's in 1/50th scale. Now this is one of the coolest, strangest, probably best deal set I've ever come across. So this is the dusty version, which is kind of interesting, kind of strange, kind of cool. It's unique in that it doesn't match anything else that I have, but it is a cool set, and it's also a steal. For whatever reason, it's in the clearance rack, and it costs about $120, which, to be honest, for the set is a steal. Like, yeah, it's $120, that's a lot of money, but for what you're getting is pretty awesome. Now, I'm not a real big fan of the dustiness, but it is kind of cool, it is kind of unique, and I don't know. For the price, I'm willing to deal with the dustiness. So let's start off with the tractor. Overall, it's not terrible. There are some things that are a little strange. I'm really neutral on this dustiness. On one hand, it's kind of cool, it's unique, it's different, it looks interesting on the shelf. I like that it's, it looks like it's been running up and down dirt roads all day. That's cool. But it sticks out in the sense that this is the only thing that looks like this that I have. I don't have anything else that's dirty and dusty. And I really don't like that the glass is dusty too. Like, it just, I don't know, kind of looks gross. Like if you had two spots where your windshield wipers have been scraping the glass, well, that'd be a different story. But now it just sort of looks like some guy hadn't washed his truck in 3 years. But overall, it's not bad. The fenders look kind of goofy. I think they come down a little bit too much. It almost seems like these fenders weren't made to fit this tractor, but I guess that's just kind of nitpicking. I do love the painted steel wheels. I think they are fabulous. They look great. I love the painted lug nuts in there. That looks really good. I like that you even have the blue DEF cap, for your DEF tank here. Now the tractor is mostly plastic, which some guys hate that, but I mean, it looks alright. It don't really bother me. It'd be nice if it had, air lines coming out the back here. I would appreciate that, but, for what you're paying, you really can't argue with it. Now, you can see some motor and the transmission and all that, which is cool. The hood does open up, but it is stiff, like real stiff. Like, it almost feels like you're going to break the thing off there to get it open. Now, I can only assume that's a Cummins in there. Now, International does make their own motors, but they really have not done well in the age of emissions, and probably not doing well is an understatement. They really put themselves in a pretty deep hole. You see the fenders kind of sag down on either side. Like I said, these fenders they really just aren't great. Anyway, International really dug themselves a hole. It's kind of hard to explain, but where everybody else was coming up with ways to meet the emission standards, International was kind of like buying credits to get out of it, where they could just extend their deadline, extend the deadline, and extend the deadline. And eventually it caught up with them that the motors that they were putting out were just completely substandard to what everybody else had at the time, and there's been just millions of reliability issues. And like I said, they've got enough problems with the motors that they built that it's entirely possible that International won't be around in 5 or 10 years. Like, it's that bad. So as far as like the International tractor being with the set, I don't mind. It's cool to have an International. Everything doesn't have to be a Peterbilt or a Kenworth or a Mack, which is nice. I really like this headache rack. I think it looks great. I love the beacon lights up there. You do have a choice of the stack tip you can put in there. There's a straight tip or a curved tip, which is pretty cool. The oversized load sign does come off too. Overall, it's really not a bad tractor. It looks good, it displays well. If it had like a pogo stick right here with the air lines and electric line, that would be cool, but I'll take it. I think it's pretty alright. Now for the trailer itself, the trailer is really cool. You got a 2-axle Jeep, which is pretty nice. It's as simple as can be, honestly. Like it's just as simple as can be. The fifth wheel is adjustable. It does slide back and forth. The landing gear is fixed, as far as I can tell. It's just plastic and it doesn't change. So if you leave it by itself, it is going to sit kind of goofy. But it is pretty neat. I've seen where guys have taken a third set of these axles and mounted them in here, so you can make yourself a tri-axle Jeep, which is pretty cool. And they look really pretty good. Like, if you look here, you can see you have plenty of room. And if you look at how these axles are set in here, you can, if you get your hands on another Jeep, you cut it right here, and essentially you can just more or less glue it in right there, and it looks pretty good. It almost looks like it's meant to be that way. If you wanted to add it, you can add it. Now the Lowboy trailer itself, again, is pretty neat. It's just a basic, detachable gooseneck. What is cool is you have the folding neck here, or the extendable neck. So if you don't want to use the Jeep, you can unscrew this right here. And there's that screw or a pin? I can't really tell. That's a screw. So that'll unscrew, and this neck the neck extension will flip up. You can take out the pin here and put it back in here, so you can use it without the Jeep, and you'll have a regular neck length, which is pretty cool. The stinger on the back end basically just sits in there through gravity. The set does come with a single axle and a tandem axle stinger, so you can use whichever one you want. But try to get a good look at this here. The way it hooks in there is it just kind of sets in by gravity, where it just hooks in, and it's got 2 little plastic tabs that will hold it in place, which is pretty cool. It's easy as can be to get it out of there. Now the excavator is screwed into the bottom. You can see right there, you just have 2 screws that hold it in there, and the outriggers, or the deck extensions, whatever you want to call them, are permanently fixed in place, which is not bad. It doesn't bother me. I can see how some people would cry over it, but I really don't care. I think it looks pretty good as a set. Seeing as how the excavator is dusty to match the trailer, it's not like you're gonna pull it off here and put something else on. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but I'm not going to. You can see here where the neck does detach. You just have a tab that when you fold it sideways, the neck will detach. If I can ever get it to go. It's kind of hard to get my fingers in there. Alright, well, I can't get it. Hold on. Alright, so you get your little tab up there sideways, and it just pops right out. And that's all there is to it. And you do have your little loading ramps right here that fold down. So it's, I mean, honestly, it's pretty standard for a lowboy these days. There's no cylinders in there. This looks like one of the old Northcott lowboys, to be honest. I mean, it looks just like one of the old Northcotts. Actually, you know what? Since I'm here, alright, well, it does look very similar to the Northcott Trail Kings. It's not the same. It is very much a different trailer. It's just that the way that neck breaks reminded me of how it was on these Northcott Trail Kings, and it's different. It looks very similar, but it is different, so at least they have that going for them. I was kind of curious because, since Diecast Masters is making so much of the old Northcott stuff, I wondered for a second there if they had recycled the old lowboys, but that is not the case. They're significantly different trailers. Now, as far as the trailer itself goes, it is a really nice trailer. The paint is very good. The decaling is very good. The DOT striping all the way down looks pretty good. The outriggers, like I said, they're permanently mounted out, but you do have the tie-down D-rings in between, which is pretty cool. There's really no good way to tie down the excavator if you did have little tiny chains and binders, but I mean, the thing's screwed on there anyway, so you really don't need it. The tires and the wheels look great. I love the painted steel wheels. I think they're very appropriate for the trailer. I think they look great. All 3 axles are basically fixed. It kind of looks like that could be a drop axle there, but there's nothing there to change it. The trailer does look pretty good on the back, and you do have these nice rubber mud flaps. And like I said, there's just a little bit of fine detailing in there that I love. The tractor also has these rubber mud flaps as well. I don't think I mentioned that. They're teeny tiny, but they look pretty good. Now, as far as the excavator itself goes, it might be just a little bit too far that way, but that's really nitpicking. Now, this is the Diecast Masters 320D, but it's pretty much exactly the same as the Norscot one. I really can't see many differences at all, but it is still pretty good, and it is dusty as well. You can really see it on the boom and the bucket here. You can see it on the tracks as well, and a little bit here on the bottom of the house, which is pretty neat. Like I said, it's a unique model to have, and seeing as how it's fixed to the trailer and it matches the rest of the lowboy and the tractor itself, you know, I'm not going to take it off, but you certainly could if you wanted to. Now, the Stinger is pretty cool. Just like the rest of the trailer, it, you know, matches everything. Now, you do have the little oversized sign that you can pop in there, which is pretty nice. And it does rotate, and it can also be pinned in place to just run straight. A lot of times on these Stingers, you have a like a hydraulic cylinder right here, so that if you get somewhere, you get on the job, or you gotta stop and get fuel or whatever, you can raise the rear axles, or raise the Stinger rather, up off the ground, so you don't have to worry about trying to turn the whole entire thing when you're backing up. It makes it a heck of a lot easier. And since you're not going down the road, you don't need to scale in a parking lot. It just makes a lot of sense, and it saves a lot of headache. So that's why most these combination lowboys do have that, but this one does not. Now, the truck does come with a tandem axle Stinger, which is pretty cool. You can throw either one on that you want. But to be completely honest, with this being a 320, a tri-axle trailer and a tandem axle tractor is legal. Maybe not everywhere, but where I'm at, you can go down the road like this perfectly fine and not have a problem. The 320 is just not heavy enough to need all this extra stuff. Now, if it was a 330 with a bucket on it, or two buckets, then yeah, I could see adding the Jeep and like the single axle Stinger maybe. If it was a 349, then yeah, you totally need all this stuff, which is pretty awesome that you have it and you can set it up any which way you want. But the 320, just being what it is, you really don't need all this extra stuff. But anyway, now I've never run an XL trailer. I have dealt with Talberts though that are set up like this. And I want to point out one thing that is really cool. If you look at the tandem Stinger, you can see that the first axle has all your tail lights and everything and mud flaps. So you can run it essentially as, or rather, you basically have two single axle Stingers. And the reason for that is you have axles that are independent that can be pinned on as you need them. So the Talbert that I've dealt with is actually a tandem axle lowboy, and the third axle is just pinned on. And you can pin on up to 5 axles on the lowboy. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do that, but you can. Most of the time, the one that I deal with is a tri-axle, and we either have a tandem axle Stinger or a tri-axle Stinger. And the Jeep is the same way, where it's a tandem axle Jeep that you can pin on a third axle if you need to. So it is really cool that you can do that. I think there's like it's 4 independent axles that we can move wherever we need them to. And that's one of the reasons why like the fifth wheel here slides, because depending where your load is on the trailer, you have to adjust the fifth wheel here as well as the fifth wheel on the tractor to get enough weight on your steer axle as well as your tractor axles, the trailer Jeep axles, and the rear axles to get it legal. It is it can be witchcraft to get everything legal, but it does work very well. Now the way you can run these If you have a triaxle Stinger, a triaxle trailer, a triaxle Jeep, and a triaxle tractor, basically you wind up with essentially 13 axles, and it's called a California Super 13, where when you go back to the Federal Bridge formula, it lets you get legal with some pretty heavy loads as well as length. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of these trailers are set up to become a 13 axle. Well, not the trailer, you got a 30 tractor in there too, but you wind up with a 13 axle combination, and that's the reason why. Now the kingpin on the Jeep and the trailer itself are kind of fat, so they don't fit on everybody's fifth wheels. They're too big for the sword fifth wheels, but if you really wanted to, you could make it work. But the sword tractors look infinitely better with this trailer. Not that the Diecast Masters tractors don't, but the sword tractors are just a little bit better, and it's cool to have a triaxle tractor with these, you know, extended length trailers. You don't see too many tandem axle tractors with Jeeps and Stingers and all that. It's almost always a heavier triaxle tractor. So it looks a heck of a lot better to have something like this with it, but it does take some modification to make it work. One of the other downsides is because it's a dusty combination, if you throw another nice, neat, shiny tractor with it, it looks out of place. It just seems kind of odd to have such a shiny, pretty tractor with a dirty, grimy trailer and excavator. So the set itself really kind of needs to stay together in my mind to look right. It is cool that you can put other tractors with it, but it just doesn't quite look right. So overall, this thing is an excellent value for the money. Like I said, you can still find it for about $120. I don't know how long that's going to be, because I've seen it and I snapped it right up, just because for $120 for what you're getting is just a deal. Now, if you want to take this apart and use it to customize other models, and it's great for that too. You probably have a hard time finding all these pieces for, you know, out of broken sets for $120, but you are going to have to do some painting, especially to the wheels, you know, to make it look right with whatever you're putting it with. But again, for $120 for what you're getting, this is a great deal. If you don't cut it up and you keep it together, it looks great on the shelf, and it does stand out because it doesn't match, or at least for me, it doesn't match anything else that I have, because it's, you know, it's dirty or dusty or whatever you want to call it. But it is a cool set, and it is unique. Anyway, that's about all I got for this. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask. I do have a bunch of stuff coming up that people have asked for. Eventually, I'm going to try to start doing some live videos, either Saturday or Sunday nights. You know, I really haven't figured out what I'm going to do yet. I just figure I'd pull out some things that I like, and, you know, if somebody asks questions, we'll just talk and do whatever. So, keep an eye out for that. That's coming soon. Anyway, if you want to see more of what I got, please subscribe to Maryland Construction Diecast, and thanks for watching.